Welcome back, WNST Victory. We wish it could just always be this easy on the road out there. It was a friends and family gathering out in Illinois on Monday night, but the Terps wind up getting another victory, which has led us to believe, well, maybe they can beat Michigan, maybe they can go to New York next week and turn some heads. I don't know, but this guy knows more. He is from the Terrapin Times. He's one of our defending champions, also writing at the Roth Report, as well as very busy this time of the year with the Blue Ribbon. We welcome Mike Ashley back on for a rare good news Terps report. Feels like you and I have been talking about some beatdowns, especially on the road, far too many times. It's been about a month since we got together, since before the Super Bowl. And I don't want to say that I expect them to be in the tournament, but they've at least given themselves a chance to have a couple of right crosses next week in New York, maybe do some damage if they can win a couple of games, right?
Right. But I think all that starts maybe with, you got to upset Michigan at home, which, seemed out of the realm of possibility maybe a week ago. But now suddenly, Terps playing a lot better, maybe picking up some momentum at the right time. This isn't the Terps team we expected to have this time of year. Obviously, they're not nearly as strong without Justin Jackson and really without Yvonne Bender, who had come into his own this year. And now Tchaikovsky's got healthy again. Dion Wiley, where did he come from Monday night? My gosh, 13 points off the bench. Seemed like a ton of them were at just the right time. And if he turns his game up, this Maryland team does have a chance, I think, to make a wave here at the end of the year. And that would be pretty exciting and a real credit to, the resistance they've shown this year.
Mike, is Bruno Fernando playing too well, if you know what I mean?
I do know what you mean. But when I look around the landscape, it seems like there's so many freshmen that are already penciled in to be gone. I don't know if there's room for Bruno, unless he's going to be content to be a second-round pick or something like that. And you got to think, if people can explain to him, Bruno, if you stay around and do this for a whole season next year, you're talking the big money. You're talking Chris Wilcox strata here. So, I hope that's the way it works out. I think maybe the best thing could have happened is that, you remember back, Bruno got hurt in the preseason. That slowed him early out of the gates. Then he got tweaked again and was slowed a little bit more. And, lately, the thing you got to look at in his game is he's been getting into foul trouble pretty consistently. That's what's made Checo coming back at this time so important, because he's been able to come in and play some valuable minutes. But, look, Maryland folks know basketball, and you cannot watch what Bruno does game in, game out and go, oh, my God, this guy, he is definitely an NBA prospect. When you look at some of my mouth just goes agape when I see him block a shot. Sometimes the way he does, his just natural instincts on the low block, and that's actually got a chance to get a little bit better if you put another perimeter shooter like Dion Wiley out there regularly. So, this is it's exciting time for Maryland next couple of weeks.
Mike Ashley joining us here from Terrapin Times, and we're talking all things Terps and getting ready for the weekend. But I guess we have to talk about the whole Big Ten, right? And where these other teams are. And I know Ohio State's tripped lately. Purdue looks pretty strong. We all know about Michigan State. Here's Michigan, Nebraska. How many of these teams are going to go dancing? Well, now not next weekend. It's going to be 2.5 weeks from now at this point, because the Big Ten tournament, there's going to be a little downtime on the backside of this thing, right?
Right. Now early on, there was some talk that the Big Ten might really get shafted, only get about 4 teams. But suddenly, now you look, there's 5 teams that have already got 20 wins. And you know what? Hey, knocking on the door right now, Penn State, 19 going into this week, and Maryland now at 19 also. Then there's some other teams that have had, some rough luck. I think we all expected a lot more from a team like Northwestern, a big win for Maryland there the other night, but they are just not the same team without Bryant McIntosh at point guard. And, to show how important a position like point guard is, you're talking about a Northwestern team coming down the stretch that needs some wins, and they blew, double-digit leads in back-to-back games. That horrible falling apart against Michigan State there, 27-point lead they lost. And, hey, they lost an 11-point lead to Maryland Monday night.
Well, I mean, the first half and the second half were, polar opposites, right? I mean, Maryland came on strong, Northwestern didn't, and, part of Maryland's problem has just been the road, right? The road, whether it was, Michigan at the end where they defend it inbounds from across the floor, or whether it's just getting buried in certain cases as they were on the road, especially after the injury to Jackson. But this composition of the team, and I'm not always the one looking to praise or damn Turgeon, but I tell you what, things were coming apart 6 weeks ago, and the fact that we're even talking about them being a 20-win team and a team that with some momentum next week to put 2 or 3 wins together, if they were to slay a giant or two next week, that they would move into an RPI position to be under some sort of consideration. I would not have told you that the week before the Super Bowl.
Right. Yeah, it's the thing that impresses me, though, this is actually, to my way of counting, this is maybe the 5th incarnation of this team. Now that Checo is back,
sure,
you've got that piece working again. But Coach Turgeon has had to reinvent this team a couple times. First losing the all-purpose inside-outside skills of a guy like Justin Jackson. Yvonne Bender was going to be the starting center. He had won that job, and his skill set was going to make, I think, a lot of the perimeter players a lot better because he's so good at finding open shooters. And so that was another key piece they lost. And then since then, Wiley had been out of the lineup with some problems, and just all kinds of things happened like it. I do want to give Coach Turgeon some credit for something he did Monday night, though. They came out in that game and were double teaming the low post. Pardon the big kid for Northwestern there, and that led to 8 of 15 shooting for the Wildcats there from 3-point range in the first half, and a deficit at halftime for the Terps. And then so the second half got out of that, went back to straight man-to-man, and the second half only 2 more 3-pointers for Northwestern, and Maryland gets the win on the road. So yeah, that was a nice move there.
In assessing the rest of this, Michigan State, Purdue, national championship stock as you see it?
I hate to say this. I love Purdue. I love the fact they've got this great team that they haven't had maybe in a billion years since,
Joe Barry Carroll.
Well, yeah, but that's the team I thought of. But then I'm probably giving some of those other teams a short shrift. Gene Cady, he had some pretty good teams there, but I couldn't take my hands off his hairdo. It was it was incredible. But
I was going to go Glenn Robinson era, but okay,
the big dog, yeah, no doubt. But yeah, Michigan State to me is still the team like they always are this time of year. I think some of the other teams kind of pretend you never bet against Coach Baylon and what he's been able to do in the NCAA tournament over the years, and so Michigan is a very dangerous team. Also, but I think those 3 probably the best. I really don't see a dark horse that could make a long run from the Big Ten unless you let me call Purdue a dark horse if things fall right for them. But I just I don't know. They seem very vulnerable to me for some reason. I guess I've seen too many of their losses on TV is why I say that, because they do have a great team, and it is a great story for the Big Ten this year, what they're doing.
Mike Ashley joining us here. You can find him at the Roth Report as well as Blue Ribbon, but his main gig is, of course, at Terrapin Times, which used to mean your main gig was ACC. Now we're moving around to watch, these other games, but you still watch a lot of ACC basketball. The Virginia thing, Duke. It's still an ACC world probably 2.5 weeks from now, right? Kind of, sort of?
Oh, yeah. They just, and you look what North Carolina's doing here lately. They've really reinserted themselves back in the conversation. Duke playing better basketball without the best freshman in the country, Marvin Bagley. How incredible is that? I think it allows them to space the floor a little bit better without Bagley, and you put the ball more in Grayson Allen's hands, and what a long, strange trip it's been with him. But he's obviously a great, skilled offensive player.
Feels like he's been there since Hurley, by the way. Just so
yeah, you know what? And here's one from Maryland fans. I had a snarky remark about them the other day.
Imagine that.
Now that they play a 2-3 zone all the time, do they run back and slap the floor before they drop into their church league 2-3 zone? It's just so weird watching Duke these days. So it's obvious to me that Coach Krzyzewski doesn't think they can man up literally defensively, and I think that's going to be a fatal flaw for them. So we'll see how that plays out. I don't think Carolina. This is not your typical uber talented Carolina team. So that's going to be interesting. Clemson really disappointed me the other day. I got a chance to watch them on TV against Duke, and they just sort of flamed out. Although I guess they've had some injuries in the backcourt, which will cause that to happen. So yeah, and Virginia, I am omitted saying them. I can't decide how. I love Tony Bennett. What a great guy. He's always a great interview for me when I preview them in the preseason. And I love having Virginia have good basketball, but my gosh, if they win the national championship and if this style of pack line defense catches on everywhere, I don't think I can watch college basketball anymore.
It's kind of like hockey when they didn't move the lines back and everybody was forechecking, and it became a different brand. It became more like soccer, I think, is what we would say. Mike Ashley joining us here, does some comedy at Roth Reports as well as at the Blue Ribbon, where we try to keep it serious for all things basketball around here. We're going to start talking one seeds. We're going to start talking bubble and all that sort of thing. And locally, we got a new gym up here at UMBC. Mike, if you haven't had a chance to come up and see that place, you come see it. They're going to be playing some meaningful basketball games over there. There's something to be said for some of these smaller conferences not running off and playing in half-empty gyms like the CAA did up here a couple of years ago. Something neat about UMBC hosting like a conference tournament game on campus. That's kind of neat.
Yeah, I would love to get up there and see that facility. I spent a lot of time in the old one, and it wasn't
the rack.
It wasn't much. Yeah, it wasn't much to talk about. But yeah, look, hey, you know my background. I'm a mid-major guy, and I sort of snickered at Terrapin fans and followers earlier this year when they were talking about how it was going to be so tough for them to get to the NCAA tournament, and they were going to have to make a good showing in the postseason. Well, that's every mid-major's life existence. Forget you win 20-some games. It doesn't matter. If you don't play well 3 days at the end of February and into March, you're done. You're going home, other than maybe NIT or the CBI or one of those other tournaments. You don't get the recognition. You don't get all that exposure on TV from the NCAA tournament. You're over. So I'm telling you, when you watch those small conference tournaments in Division I, that is some of the best basketball you can tune into this year. So make sure if you're a basketball guy, you're watching some of those leagues, during championship week when those games are over. And I'll be honest with you, oftentimes I've found the semifinal games are even more compelling because those guys are fighting so hard to get to that championship and get that brass ring. And sometimes you kind of leave it all on the floor, and the championship games sometimes aren't as exciting as those semifinal nights. And depending on how the games are scheduled, you might not get the rest to come back and play that hard, on a championship day and within 24 hours.
Yeah, when UMBC beat Binghamton 10, 12 years, 06, 07, whatever that was, they got into the tournament. That's one of the most exciting days that I remember. That was a championship game there. Now, obviously Vermont being in their conference, that would be the way it is. But, that is just as good as getting on a train and going up to New York and hoping Maryland can knock off Michigan State at the Garden, right? I mean, kind of, sort of.
Well, you know what, and there's just not the finality to those games, because the way they played down the stretch, Maryland's going to get a bid somewhere. I'm reasonably sure of it. Now, we all hope it's the NCAA tournament, and boy, do I hope it, because I'd rather be going to those kind of games than any others. Of course, so would the Terps. So we got that going for us. But if you're UMBC and you get upset in your tournament, you got a good chance to get to one of those other tournaments, but man, you're just going to be, all those kids are going to be left with the what ifs,
Right on.
Well,
you were Radford, right? That was your school, right?
That's right. I was there for 15 years, and then the year I left as a sports information director is the year they finally broke through and got to the NCAA tournament in '98. So apparently I was the problem. So, but that was fun. I got to sit in the stands for that championship game, which was played at Liberty University and against UNC Asheville. Radford was down 17-0 to start the game, came back and won it on a stick back at the buzzer on a play. Guard drove the lane, bounced it off the rim. Big guy got it, threw it in at the buzzer, and of course we stormed the floor.
Is this on YouTube by any chance?
Yeah. Oh, I'm sure. Here's the thing, though, Nestor. I ran into my college roommate running around the floor like Jim Valvano. It was just amazing. They wrote us up in the alumni magazine. Two guys that both become sports writers, hadn't seen each other in 10 years, and we're running around the floor celebrating the championship, and we run into each other. It was really, so there's one of those moments.
That's a YouTube moment there for the mighty Highlanders and everyone who supports them down there, right?
Right.
There you go. All right. Mike, I will hope to see you courtside sometime soon. I don't know where that'll be, but we'll be following you out at Terrapin Times as well as at Roth Reports and the Blue Ribbon stuff that you are doing. It is your time of the year, right? Plenty of pizza, plenty of beer, plenty of wings, sitting around watching a lot of basketball. That's what you're doing, right?
Yes. In all those areas, I'm an MVP.
Or at least an MVP candidate. So,
right.
Yeah. All right, man. Not a point guard. You will not be distributing your wings to me. See you soon, man.
My post gets lower and lower every year.
No, I'm going to Pizza John's is what I'm going to do. I'll bring you some pizza for Pizza John's, one of our great sponsors. Excellent. There you go. We got to do that. Mike Ashley from Terrapin Times and Roth Reports and Blue Ribbon joining us here talking some Terps as well. You can find anything you miss in the BuyAToyota.com audio vault 24 hours a day from anywhere in the world on your mobile device by downloading the TuneIn radio app. We do come in crystal clear from anywhere that you are. The morning newspaper ships to your email inbox free of charge each and every morning at 7 a.m. It's all brought to you by Planet Fitness and PlanetFitness.com. Last but never least, breaking news happens first right here on the WNST text service. I got the Chris Tillman text myself. It's all brought to you by Coons Ford of Security Boulevard. Dennis will be here on Thursday from 3 until 5. I want to give some shout-outs to some of our great sponsors, including Howard Bank, signed up, sponsored our Super Bowl coverage. You're going to be hearing more of our community and charitable interviews on Thursday mornings in March. All brought to you by our friends at Howard Bank. We're also going to be in Indianapolis next week for all things Combine. Luke and I will be out there doing the NFL thing and broadcasting live from Indianapolis. So make sure you're tuned in for that. Nasty at WNST.net finds me. Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, Snapchat, Instagram, streaming live on our Facebook as well as our YouTube WNSTV channel. I'm Nestor. We are WNST.net, AM 1570 and WNST Towson, Baltimore. And we never stop talking Baltimore sports.